that story again.
Okay. Well, once upon a time.
What is experimenting with narrative? Well, first we got to answer the question of what a narrative actually is in the first place. The narrative of a film is its overall structure, and it is the manner of which a story is told. However, things seem to get complicated when all these film scholars come in talking about plot. But what is plot? Isn't it also the narrative? The difference is subtle, but it's also very significant. Where the narrative of a film refers to its structure, the plot is simply described as the events which occur within the story. Stories are generally told in a linear fashion. Protagonist starts at point A, something happens to them, and now they have to get to point B, and before you know it, the story's over. We're here to tell you that this isn't the only way.
But first, let's talk film history. Post-classical cinema refers to cinema from the mid-60s to the early 80s, when a wave of young directors started creating films which challenged the established Hollywood formula for making films. Such directors as Martin Scorsese, Woody Allen, and Roman Polanski, as well as actors like Robert De Niro and Martin Sheen, were all at the forefront of this new age of cinema, which made great use of these experimental narrative techniques we'll be talking about to refresh the dulling film industry. Whereas contemporary cinema refers to films from the 1980s to the present day. Wait, that's it?
For the young filmmakers of post-classical cinema, they wanted to break through the mold with new styles and content established by the Hollywood studio system. They're pretty edgy for their time, so they decided they wanted to make something different. They began to experiment with new film techniques. Examples of these films were Bonnie and Clyde, The Graduate, and Easy Rider. The way these filmmakers told these stories was with new techniques, such as the voiceover.
A voiceover is very alike to what we're using right now, but usually a lot cooler. It's usually a non-diegetic voice that is used to reveal more about the story and characters than what is already apparent, and provide a point of view and to create greater depth and meaning. A voiceover can be from a character in the story or just an unknown reader. When heard from a character within the story, this can be them telling their story in hindsight, like in Megamind, Goodfellas, and The Shawshank Redemption, or might be used to show a character's inner thoughts, also known as internal diegetic, like in Psycho.
I know there are women like my best friends who would have gotten out of there the minute their boyfriend gave them a gun to hide. But I didn't. I gotta admit the truth, it turned me on.
There was a technique I was supposed to remember, but I can't think of what it is.
Okay, Oran, you need to talk about flashbacks. Don't forget.
Okay, don't forget, flashbacks.
You need to talk about flashbacks. Don't forget.
The flashback, a scene or sequence of a film set at a different time to the main plot, such as a memory used to reveal an important truth about a character or the narrative. There are countless examples of this in film and TV, but a standout use of the flashback can be found in Memento, where the entire story is told extensively in flashback to set up the plot.
I can't, I gotta go home. I'll do it later.
The next experimental technique we're going to talk about is the freeze frame. A freeze frame is when all action on screen pauses, usually on an important image, and lingers on it for a while. Its main use is to give the audience time to derive meaning from a shot, such as the character introduction in Romeo and Juliet, but can also be used to create a dramatic and memorable scene due to the sudden freeze in pacing as shown in Goodfellas.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
The intertitle, featuring an intertitle. An intertitle is text which appears between images to give information on plot or dialogue. In the silent era, they were used to show the dialogue of the characters when sound recording equipment was not available for films. In most recent years, the intertitle has been used most commonly to separate films into chapters, as seen in many Wes Anderson films such as The Isle of Dogs. Unreliable narrators. This is when a narrator's point of view or recollection of events does not match to the real events. This causes a break in trust between the audience and the narrator.
I ditched work today.
Took a train out to Montauk. I don't know why. I'm not an impulsive person.